Tomlinson, General Overseer of the Church of God of Prophecy.
On June 13, 1903, A.J. Tomlinson received a vision of the Last Days Church of God of the Bible. Bishop Tomlinson had been worshiping with a group of people who called themselves the Holiness Church at Camp Creek in Cherokee County of North Carolina. He became the first member by covenant, with the understanding that by accepting the whole Bible, rightly divided, this group was in reality the Church of God, which had gone into the Dark Ages after accepting the Nicene Creed in 325 A.D. The first General Assembly of the Church of God of these last days was held in North Carolina in January of 1906, centuries after man-made doctrines had hidden from the view the church established by Christ on Mount Hatton in Palestine. The second assembly was conducted in Bradley County of Tennessee. Annual assemblies 3 to 11 were held at the corner of 11th and People Streets in Cleveland. The 12th and 13th assemblies convened in Harriman, Tennessee, while assemblies 14 to 16 were held at 11th and Montgomery Avenue in Cleveland. Beginning with the 17th Assembly of 1922, these annual gatherings have been conducted in the auditorium on East Central Avenue in Cleveland, Tennessee. We now present a series of interviews conducted by Buford M. Johnson with delegates to the First Assembly of 1906.
And now here we are at the home of Brother W.M. Coleman. Brother Coleman, how old a man were you at the First General Assembly?
I was about 25.
How old are you now, sir?
80.
What about the weather?
It snowed that evening. Me and my father went from the assembly home through the snow.
And how far was it away
About
to home?
4 or 5 miles.
Did you have some preaching? Who did
No.
some of the preaching?
No. Brother Tomlinson was the moderator, and Brother Lemons talked. They just talked around.
Like a business
Yeah,
meeting?
business meeting.
I see.
That's the way I felt about it. It was a business meeting, and I was awfully delighted in it. I was been looking for something like that, but I didn't know whether I'd ever see it or not till it happened, and I was just delighted. I was just so much delighted that I just couldn't hardly wait to get home.
When you got home, you told everybody you ran into
yeah,
it.
everybody I saw.
Well, how many churches did we have about then? About 4 churches, was it?
Well, about 3 or 4.
3 or
I
4.
guess, yes, sir.
I just wonder, Brother Coleman, you still love the Lord like you did back
Yeah,
then?
I love him. I love the Lord.
Still a Christian?
Yes.
That's
and,
wonderful. Well, it's certainly been wonderful talking with you, and it's been well worth the trip to come down from Cleveland to Athens.
I appreciate that, and I'm proud to talk with you.
And now we've come out to pay a visit with Johnny Brown and his wife. We've just been visiting with his wife in the other room. And Brother Brown, it's good to see you. And as you know, we're having interviews and making tape about this anniversary of the First Assembly. And you were telling me a few moments ago that you went quite a distance to that assembly. Where was you living at the time?
I was living down the country here about 3 miles at Drago, a church house at that time where Brother Tomlinson preached.
And I believe you took several different ways of going to that meeting, walking, and what was that you were telling me? I thought that was interesting.
Well, we walked part of the way on the first stretch of the trip. We got on the train and rode up past what they call a loop on Allen End Road up to Florida. Got off and they met us there with a wagon and team, an old-timey mountain wagon and team. And went the balance of the trip. Don't remember how many miles it was.
Do you remember how long it took you to get there?
Well, we just about a day of making the whole trip.
I see. Your wife tipped me off a while ago that maybe you went up there on a courting trip a little bit besides meeting. Was there anything to that?
Wasn't exactly that way.
Yes, sir.
Exactly.
How old are you now?
76.
76. You're 4 years younger than Brother Coleman, with whom we spoke this afternoon. And thank you very much for talking with us. And now we'll go on to the next stop. And now here we are near Loving, Georgia, at the home of Brother and Sister Rufus R. Jones, who were also delegates, or at least he was a delegate, to that First General Assembly in Cherokee County of North Carolina. Brother Jones, it's good to see you. How old a man are you now, sir?
84.
You were telling me a few moments ago about going to the assembly from this very valley here. And how did you go?
Right through the mountains.
Did you walk?
Walk.
And who was it you was telling me a moment ago was with you on that trip?
Willie Ellis and Balfour Crombie.
You were a married man. Well, has Brother A.J. Tomlinson ever been down here to visit you at your home? Preached here or anything?
We're back down there, yeah, a lot of times.
Well, thank you very much, and we'll be running along because we've got an appointment. And now here we are at the home of Mrs. Ella Thompson on Poplar Avenue, and we want to interview Sister Nettie Bryant and her two daughters, Sister Thompson and Mrs. Agnes Benton. First, we wanted to have Sister Bryant talk to us a little bit. Sister Bryant, we're talking about the first General Assembly. Where were you living during that time?
Lived near the field of the woods.
Right in there where the park is now? Is
Right there.
Well, did you do some cooking for this General Assembly over at Brother Murphy's place?
Yes, I cooked for them.
That was at the first assembly there.
Yes, the first assembly.
And do you remember kind of how the things went as far as business? Did they just sit around and talk about the doctrine and what they were going
Just
to...
talk and have a good time.
Just a good time in the meeting together?
Yes.
Sister Benton, you were a young lady about that time, were you not?
Yes, sir.
Did you do like young folks today? Did you go to meeting for meeting?
That's all I done. Went to meeting.
That's right. Mrs. Thompson, were you quite young at that time, too?
Well, I wasn't too young.
You wasn't too. Were you married then?
No,
No, you weren't married. Well, what about the order of the services now? Did they let the women folks discuss the doctrine and all like that, or did all the men folks do that?
Men folks done it.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Well, was there any immediate results after that first assembly? The prayer meetings, did they kind of pick up then from all that?
Oh, yes, very much.
Well, how far away from that first assembly house was the having church? The Sheriff's Schoolhouse seemed like. Where was that?
About 3/4 of a mile.
About 3/4 of a mile down the road.
Mm-hmm.
And who was the pastor there, Sister Thompson, at that Sheriff's Schoolhouse?
Brother Spurn, my dad.
Yes, Brother Brian, yes.
And Brother Tomlinson, he come down. He lived at Culberson, I believe, is where he was at. In Culberson,
Yes,
North
ma'am.
Carolina.
And somebody told me just in the last day or two that he walked that 14 miles to preach there quite often.
Well, I guess he had.
Tell me just a little bit, if you will, about when they burned the schoolhouse down. What happened up there? Y'all had a meeting house that was burned down one time.
Well, the power of the Lord just fell so up there, the outside world couldn't stand it, and they just tore down our house and piled it up and burned it.
Is there?
They burnt two.
Burnt two church houses?
Burnt two.
Well,
Yes, sir.
was there any bodily harm back in those days? Did they try to whip the preachers or rock them or anything?
Oh, they'd rock 'em like everything. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we kept our daddy hid.
Is that right? People after him for preaching.
Yeah, we hid him one night. They was after him, and in behind a bunch of quilts we had packed up in the corner. And like scared me to death. Now, I thought sure this was going to get bad. And he stood right up in behind that bunch of quilts in the corner till after midnight.
Seems like I remember a hearing of the time when they shot at Brother Tomlinson, shot through the house.
That is down in Culberson.
Down in Culberson.
They was on the Georgia line, you see.
Yes. Well, it's certainly been wonderful talking to you, and this has been a thrill to me to be able to go around to visit all the various people. There are 6 of you remaining as a witness to that assembly in 1906. What was started back in 1906 has had great results. It's moved. It's worldwide in its scope now. There are many countries that have heard the gospel just because of what you folks decided on back there.